All right, folks. Today, we begin book number 3. Book number 3, the heading reads as follows. Likutei Amarim, a compilation of teachings. The Alter Rebbe, in his humility, he just refers to these as a compilation. We know that the Jewish tradition is, of course, that anything that is said by a sage is based on previous teachings. In other words, it's not novelty outright in the sense that, new ideas. There may be a new angle and hence a much deeper and more profound new idea, but it's based on previous teachings. Previous teachings, both in the oral tradition and in the written word. So, in that sense, it's a compilation of teachings, and being that it is based on his teacher, the Mitzvah Magid, and many other previous great scholars and sages. So, a compilation of teachings, part 3, entitled Igeres HaTshuva, the Epistle on Repentance, the letters on repentance. Now, hear the word repentance. That's probably not so PC today, that word. So we're going to use the word tshuva instead of the word repentance. And the truth is, I'm not doing it because what's PC, what's not PC. I'm doing it because the word repentance conjures up in everybody's mind a certain connotation, has a definite meaning to it, and for the most part, probably not either Jewish or positive. So, here on in, repentance is tshuva. That's it. So, from time to time, I might remind you, but I'm sure you'll remember. All right, that is the introductory remarks of the Alter Rebbe. Let's go into the teaching of chapter 1. Tanya b'Seif Yuma. So, this third book starts with the word Tanya, because Tanya means it's been taught in a brisa, part of the oral tradition. There's teachings of the Mishnah, and this is of a brisa from the Talmud, where in the end of tractate of Yuma, which is the tractate that speaks about Yom Kippur. And it says as following, that tshuva there are 3 types of atonements for varying degrees of, or varying categories of transgressions. And atonement, which is kapara, like from Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement, tshuva is with all of them. Penitence is with all of them. In other words, in order to be cleansed, you need to do penitence, you have to do tshuva. So he says, the first category is that if someone failed to fulfill a positive commandment, they failed. Didn't put on tefillin yesterday. Didn't say the Shema on time. Those are positive commandments. A person does tshuva, their forthright get kapara, atonement. You do tshuva. Now, what does that tshuva mean? We'll get to. What is the parameters of it? We will get there. Right now, we're just setting up the structure. So, again, a positive commandment, someone fails to fulfill, like saying the Shema on time. Each morning, there's a commandment to say the Shema each evening. And if one fails to do it, one needs to get atonement. One needs to do penitence, one needs to do tshuva in order to be cleansed. So if a person does, they're forthright, receive atonement. Now, what if it's a negative commandment? A mitzvah lo yisaseh, one of the 365 prohibitions of the Torah, for example, like eating something that you're not allowed to eat, that's not kosher, transgressing, observance of a holiday or a Shabbos and so on. So then you need to do penitence, tshuva, but that's not sufficient. You have to wait until Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, in order to get complete cleansing. The third one we'll come to shortly. So it would seem that transgression and the tshuva that one needs to do for a prohibition, for a negative commandment, like eating something that's not kosher, saying something you're not allowed to say, lashon hara, right, ill talk about someone, is much more severe. Why? Because you have to do tshuva, but it's not sufficient tshuva. You have to wait until Yom Kippur. But when it comes to a positive commandment, if you do tshuva, immediately you get the atonement, the cleansing. The Alter Rebbe says, don't make that mistake. It's not true. Explains. Not that the positive commandment is less important. As a matter of fact, when a positive and a negative commandment come together, for example, you're not allowed to wear wool and linen. But if you're wearing wool and linen in tzitzis, it's okay. So the negative commandment gives way for the positive commandment of wearing tzitzis. So we see in that respect that the positive commandment is more powerful than the negative commandment. Because when the two collide, the negative prohibition gives way for positive fulfillment of the commandment. Other examples, that's sufficient for now. That's sufficient. So why would that be? When it comes to atonement, you have to wait for Yom Kippur when you transgress a prohibition, a negative commandment. But when the two come together and become a contradiction one to the other, then the negative commandment gives way for the positive commandment. So the Alter Rebbe explains, because the positive commandment supersedes, because through fulfilling a positive commandment, what you do actually is bring a light of God into this world. There's 248 positive commandments. 248 positive commandments that are juxtaposed. They're called the limbs of the king of God, metaphorically speaking. How so? Well, just as every limb has its unique form of vitality and functionality, likewise each mitzvah has its unique vitality and functionality. So each mitzvah, positive commandment, brings a certain form of vitality of God into this world. And that's why when we do a mitzvah, we make the blessing that God has hallowed us in this commandment, in this positive commandment, meaning that He's hallowed us, He's sanctified us, He's brought to us sanctification, meaning we draw vitality in the act of doing that positive commandment. When doing the commandment, we actually bring that light of God into this world, right? So in that respect, the positive commandment is greater, because the positive commandment is introducing new light of God into this world. Whereas the negative commandment isn't doing that. It's just making sure that the light of God is not going in a bad place, but it's not introducing something new into this world. So in that respect, the positive commandment is greater. However, on the other side, that's in the fulfillment and in the ultimate aim and goal is the fulfillment of the commandments. But when it comes to when we have done something wrong, we have failed. Then, to rectify that which we have failed, there's a distinction between the positive and negative commandment. So let's understand. What if I failed by doing a positive commandment? What we just said, bringing the light of God into this world. Well, if I didn't put on tefillin, if I'm a Jewish man, 13 years old and older, and I have the commandment, the responsibility to put on tefillin, and I didn't do it yesterday, or I didn't say the Shema on time, right, first 3 hours of the day is a time for Shema, and I didn't do it. I failed. So now I'm going to do tshuva. I feel bad. And whatever it entails in tshuva, do tshuva. And so from now on, from this moment forward, I will be careful. And I will make sure to put on my tefillin every day, say the Shema on time, and so on, right? But can I bring back yesterday? Can I bring back that moment that I could bring the light of God into this world? No. Can't never be brought back. Yes, I'll be more careful here henceforward, but I can't bring back yesterday's light of God that I didn't bring into this world. Therefore, when it comes to tshuva, all there is henceforward. And therefore, it's sufficient that I do tshuva, penitence, and forthright, God is atoning. Right? However, when it comes to a violation of one of the 365 prohibitions of the Torah, negative commandments, that's different. What's different? Because what I have done, I haven't failed in bringing the light of God into this world. I have failed in the fact that I have taken the light of God and brought it into negative forces. I brought it into klipa, into sitra acher. I've impaired the supernal light of God. Its root source, above, and of course within me, my divine, the garbs, the self-expression of my soul. Therefore, what do I need? Because of the negative force that I have introduced into the godly realm and into me, I need a deeper cleansing. And therefore, the cleansing is not enough that I just reach to God. As a matter of fact, the term that's used when it comes to Yom Kippur, that ye shall atone before Havaya. So the literal sense means you gotta atone before God, like on Yom Kippur. You're before God on Yom Kippur, you have to atone. But Lifnei Havaya has a deeper meaning to it. That before means beyond. Before means comes before. So it's coming before the name of God, Shem Havaya. So you need to reach above and beyond. When can you reach above and beyond? That's specifically on Yom Kippur. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe says we shouldn't learn any leniency when it comes to the positive commandments, that even though you're immediately forgiven after repenting, when you did not fulfill a positive commandment, it doesn't mean that there's a leniency here vis-a-vis the negative commandment, right, which requires extra atonement, waiting until Yom Kippur, that you can reach to a level lifnei havaya, before, preceding, beyond the name of God. And what that means we'll get into, not now. Again, as I said, it's chapter 1. We're just setting a structure for everything. The other says, no, don't make that mistake. Don't be lenient when it comes to the positive commandments. Oh, it's not so bad because if I didn't put on my tefillin. No, I can repent. No. It's not a leniency. as a result. As a matter of fact, our sages tell us in the Talmud that God is more forgiving when it comes to, and this might be a little hard to understand exactly, more forgiving when it comes to idolatry, incest, and murder that have a capital punishment. But he doesn't excuse neglect of the study of Torah. Oh my gosh. That's definitely not something we're either comfortable with or something that makes sense to us. What? The 3 worst crimes? Idolatry, incest, and murder. That's, I mean, you have to even give up your life for that. So what does this mean? So how could it be that God can sometimes overlook, but not when we neglect study of Torah, which I guess teaches us how important our Torah study is over here that we have together, how crucial our study of Torah is. So what does that mean? Ultimately, what is the point? What has God brought us in this world? That we should stay away from evil or do good? Ultimately, it's doing good and bringing light of God into this world. How do we bring the greatest light of God into this world? What we're doing right now, studying Torah. So if we neglect it, I don't want to put our difficult trip on anybody, but the Alter Rebbe is doing it, so I'm just the messenger. If we're neglecting our study of Torah, the Talmud, our sages tell us, God doesn't, because ultimately that's the whole point, is to bring godliness into this world, and what a great way we do it is in the study of Torah, so we should not neglect it. Now, obviously on the other side of the coin, in the doing of evil, yes, those things are very much evil, but that's not what God's, He didn't bring us into this world that we should refrain from idolatry, refrain from incest, and refrain from murder. Yes, we got to do that, absolutely. But we're here for bringing and introducing the divine light in this world through the positive commandments, ultimately. And that's why the positive commandment, when it comes against a negative commandment, the positive outweighs the negative, right? And therefore, when it comes to wool and linen coming together, which you're not allowed to wear, it's called shatnez, but in tzitzis, that is a mitzvah, it's okay. So what do we have over here? So far we've understood we have to do tshuva when it comes to a positive commandment. We have to do tshuva, penitence, when it comes to a negative commandment that we have failed in fulfilling. And then finally, to complete the baraisa, the teachings of the Talmud, if a person commits a sin that's punishable by excision or by execution by the hands of heaven, so you have to do penitence, right? You have to do tshuva, and you have to wait till Yom Kippur, but Yom Kippur is not sufficient. A person needs to have some form of suffering in order to cleanse the soul, in order to complete. Now, the idea of kapara, atonement, is the concept of cleansing. So, to be cleansed of the soul, when a person has done something like eating bread on Passover, that is the punishable by excision, charis, which means being cut off from heaven. So a person does tshuva, have to wait for Yom Kippur, and then there's going to be some painful experience, as we will go into the next chapter to understand. We'll continue. Yeah, we'll continue in this chapter and forthcoming chapters, and explaining what that means, in order that there should be atonement, a cleansing of the soul. And that is the Brisa, with the Alter Rebbe's comments on it. And on this we will continue to understand. We will try to understand the concept of cleansing of the soul, that a person needs to do tshuva, penitence, in order to have that cleansing. Being forgiven, which means that there's a cleansing. What does that mean exactly? To what degree is that cleansing? What do we need to do in order to have that cleansing? It's all coming up right here on Tanya. It's our first day together in book number 3. And we're looking forward as we have Audria. Shalom to you, North Carolina. And Tang Zalan from Haifa in Israel. Wonderful. Alyssa from Hollywood. Shalom. Erica from Norway. Welcome. Michael, shalom. Rena from Colorado. Good day. Cindy from Florida. Julie from Cape Coral, Florida. Heather from Connecticut. Omar from Texas. Randy from Baltimore. Hello. Rick, yes, tshuva often involves tzedakah. We'll get there, what that means. Rusty, good morning to you in Texas. Henki, oh, I'm sure I got that wrong. From Indonesia, shalom. So Denise asked me a question, what happens when someone does a sin unknowingly? So there's, doing it purposefully and doing it unknowingly. So you still have to do tshuva, even if you did it unknowingly, right? And we'll get into that. We'll explain. Good question. Excellent question. All right. Thank you, Shoshana Bina. Thank you, Clem. Abigail from Woodstock. Okay. All right. All right, folks. Sharing is caring. And especially if we're starting a new book, now is a time to get more people engaged and involved in our learning together. So please share. I also want to share with you that tonight at Chabad Zichron on Facebook and on Zoom, you could get it, we will be having a rapper to rabbi, someone who led a former lifestyle, a rapper, and is now a shliach of the Rebbe, a rabbi, influencing, inspiring. Great story. Come and join us tonight at 7:30, again on Chabad Zichron. It'll also be on my Facebook page, and it'll be on Zoom. You get the information on our outlets, but I'm letting you know, Chabad ZK, facebook.com//Chabad ZK, or a Tanya Rabbi on Facebook. All right, folks, wishing you a wonderful day and a good week. Be well.